Welcome to the June edition of the Sand Springs Board of Education and Meetings. I call the meeting to order and do a roll call, please.
Gunn,
Here.
Noggle, Mullins, Wagner, here, Wagers, here.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have an opportunity for the public to be heard. If anyone is signed in for that, they would. Nope. Okay, then we move on to Sandai Spirit Awards. You want to go first?
Okay. Matt Barnett. I understand that you kind of dapple behind the scenes with teachers in the schools and do all kinds of stuff. And Sherry Durkee has nominated you because she hears about this stuff and she didn't even know about it and it's already happened. And she's like, what? And anyways, she wants to definitely award you for your volunteer work that you do and your real talent. You have a real talent with video production. And he has volunteered his time to our Indian education program to develop a video production for their awards. You've done this before, but your continuation of devoting time and effort to help on occasion deserves recognition for sure. So, Sandai Spirit Award. The certificate is awarded to Matt Barnett for outstanding achievements and accomplishments in representing Sand Springs Public Schools and the community at large. Thank you. As always.
We doing this?
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Pops out every single time I turn around. And the last one was at a checkpoint meeting with Suzanne Sanders. It's like, oh yeah, Matt did this. Video production is not easy nor not time consuming. And so you just do that. And I turn around and there's Matt again doing something else. So thank you.
I don't have a job anymore, so I've been laid off. No,
I won't tell. Anyway.
thank you all. You guys are awesome.
Next award going to Sebastian Savvy Cassidy. So you've been nominated by Carrie Schlehuber, and you've been a member of the baseball team since 8th grade. But before his senior season started, had a career-ending injury that required significant surgery and rehab. Would have been easy, obviously, to quit baseball at that point and transfer out of 7th hour athletics. But instead, he chose to remain as a member of the program, and his leadership was evident in every single game, participating in pregame warmups, being on the field with the team, helping run through their drills, encouraging, supporting teammates from the dugout all throughout the games, traveling with the team to away games, and being a vocal leader in all the events. A positive attitude and tremendous leadership skills were meaningful for not just the team, but also for parents who were watching in the stands, and specifically Carrie, as she was watching as a parent of a younger Charles Page High School baseball player. You've been an amazing leader, and when circumstances could have allowed you to be bitter and negative, you made a decision to turn around and lead by example. So we're just really proud of you for those decisions and the way that you handled the difficulty that you faced. And I know you have some coaches and people here as well that probably could come up here and stand and be a part of this, maybe even have a word to say about him and what he's done this year.
Yeah, just Savvy this year, man, for his entire time has just been, everything that you want a high school kid to be, and is so much even beyond what you expect to get from a high school athlete. And then, this is, like I talked about a little bit at the baseball banquet, is, anytime I fought being negative myself, I thought, this kid lost his senior year and he would never showed up negative one time ever. Was great. He helped us run the bullpen, which is for non-baseball people, where the pitchers get loose. He helped us down there. It's almost like having another coach out there. But we loved having Cass, and we're really gonna miss believe it, but he's gonna do great, whatever he ends up doing. He's gonna do awesome.
I'm gonna go obnoxious and ask you guys to come take a
Yeah,
picture.
so you guys get the picture with him for sure.
Good job, Sebastian.
Gary, come up, be in the picture as well.
What if I got in that corner, maybe?
Yeah, well,
Even if they-
hi.
1, 2, 3.
Way to go.
Thank you, sir. Okay, sir.
Let's see, who's next? You wanna go? Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm here to introduce someone who probably doesn't need an introduction, is Mr. Sean King. Stand up here. And this recognition is for one of two in the state of Oklahoma as a U.S. presidential scholar. And of the two in Oklahoma, there's 161 in the United States out of 3.6 million seniors. So here we have a stellar Oklahoman here. And he has so many awards here. I'm going to hit some of them, and then I'm going to let you just kind of talk about your future plans going to Columbia, right? Okay. He's a Oklahoma delegate to the United States Senate Youth Program. He's, as I mentioned, going to the Columbia University in New York, Oklahoma Academic All-Stater, U.S. Presidential Scholar, Oklahoma Academic Scholar, Honor Graduate, Sandike King finalist, and National TSA President for the last year, and Superintendent Joy Hoffmeister's Student Advisory Council, and a page to Representative Nolan. And then he has multiple TSA awards also, which include senatorial degree, presidential degree, prepared presentation at the state conference, and another speech at the state conference also. So we want to recognize you, the Sandike Coin of Excellence.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you.
Chick-fil-A.
Thank you very much.
And just talk a little bit about, choosing Columbia, what you expect to study at Columbia, if you kind of know what direction, or if you're just there to see where life takes you.
So I'm headed off to New York City to Columbia University to study political science. And I hope to kind of continue the work that I've been able to do here in our community and kind of get some skills back so then I can come back one day and hopefully have positive impact.
On your coin of excellence is typically reserved for our adult community, but you are 18 and your repertoire and your resume is immaculate. So I hope you take the time to carry that with you and just remind yourself of, the education you got here, and remember the good old Sandikes. We're so proud of you.
Thank you very much.
One, 2, 3.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
All right, one last one, but this is a dream team effort here that we get to acknowledge. And I'm just going to call out as they come. Dana Goyd, I'll say that right. Karen Taylor. Should hold that. Karen Pride. Lori Hopkins. Terry Kennedy. Yeah. These ladies make up a great team in our finance office. And the pandemic, of course, caused lots of challenges, and especially through the last part of the fall and during the month of November, December, they continue to operate in an incredible way. And Greg has nominated this team because of their work, and he's working right hand in hand with them, side by side all the time. And it just made a note that all the work was done in this, efficient way with all but one of these team members being diagnosed at one point with COVID-19. Now, because of HIPAA, we'll let you guess which one was or wasn't. So, but coming back, from quarantine and still feeling effects from having COVID-19, they all just continued to work their tails off to make things happen, make sure we had payroll, accounting functions, everything ready for the December stipend. Amen, teachers, you were glad for that. And just their dedication over and above always for the work that they do. That reason we're giving them the Pace Setter Award for our district, and we're excited to do that. And we're so thankful for your work always. Okay, you want to say a word?
I'm not good at this, so what I will say, it's been an absolute pleasure having all these people on my team, and it's not just the COVID-19 pandemic that they worked through. They worked through all of the various nightmares that we have dealt with, as most of you know, over the last 5 years. Almost all of them have been here for most of that time and have dealt with it all. And then through the COVID-19 when it hit, and we're trying to work, most people are working from home. We're rotating in and out of the office, literally, because unfortunately for us, all of our records are in the office. Everything we need to be able to do and have to have at hand is in the office, and we can't rent a U-Haul and take it all home with us. So we have to come into the office. So while other people were working from home, other people were getting to stay home and kind of avoid it, we're coming in trying to protect ourselves as these ladies did and still get the job done, get payroll out, get taxes paid, teachers' retirement paid and all that. And it's just a testament to their dedication to Sand Springs and to their job.
I just add one thing. We run a really tight ship we do a lot of work with a few people. And that's the truth. And they all will attest to that, and absolutely having expertise in their area to get the job done is critical just to make it work. So the fact that a 6A district is driven in the school finance area by 5 people is nothing less than phenomenal. So you guys.
Great, come up in the picture with us.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Well, this is the time when, if you received an award or we're here to celebrate those awards and you do not want to stay for all the business portion of our meeting, I mean, I don't know why you'd want to miss it, but maybe you have something else to do. You're free to make your way out.
I love it. Thank you. That's like everybody.
They do say I know how to clear a room.
I wanted to get up, might be frowned upon.
Yes.
That's you guys.
That's it. Excited to see you.
I don't know. They talk and you guys. Wait a minute. You ready to move?
All right, we're going to move to item number 7, which is our review of instructional strategies with our continuous strategic improvement plan of student empowerment and staff empowerment.
So students are our favorite to celebrate. You saw 2 incredible people.
Come back, close that door. Hold on a
That's
second.
good.
Got a good crowd.
That's, definitely high characters, something we celebrate, but high academics, and there's always those folks. And so finding the good, OSSBA, you all need to know that we have 2 students that are going to represent us at the OSSBA conference this year. We submitted, and I think we have a Charlie Garfield, a student that will sing the national anthem, and then one that will do a solo from Charles Page High School. So I'm pretty excited about that. We added some pre and post test results in language arts from the Tulsa Boys Home. I don't know, Sean, I'm going to let you elaborate on some of the curriculum stuff since you're sitting here. So if you don't mind kind of taking us through test results and those kinds of things, that would be great.
So one of the things that you're seeing on there is the graduation cohort, and that just basically, it's an indicator of the number of students that in a 4-year, 5-year, 6-year cohort typically graduate from Charles Page High School versus district graduation and state graduation. And of course, we consistently, we show high marks in those areas. We graduate more than the state average for the most part. And then the student college remediation report is one of the next ones that you'll see. This is an indicator of how many students that enter as freshmen right after graduation, how many have to go through or need to go through some remediation of some sort, whether it's in science, English, math, or reading. And we typically score somewhere around average when we compare to other districts around the state. And that's actually not an indicator of how many students by percentage that we graduate that need remediation, but how many students actually attend college from Sand Springs. So we're still pretty pleased with that average that we see going out. But however, we typically work every year to try to make sure that our students that graduate hit that mark so that they don't need those remedial classes. So again, we're pretty pleased with that one. And then the next one that you're going to see is the high school to college going rate. And you'll have to bear with me here because when this report's printed, they don't put the headers at the top of every page. So it drives me kind of crazy. You notice that? Yeah. So again, this is an indicator of how many students attend as freshmen right after graduation. Some of this data is delayed. For instance, you're going to see that this is the 2018-19 report showing data from the 2017-18 graduating class. And it shows that we had about 287 of our nearly 400 seniors that graduated that year that attended university as a freshman. What you don't see on this report that I typically see that we report somewhere in the fall usually is the data that comes from the National Student Clearinghouse, which shows the number of students that continue to stay in college beyond that freshman year. And of course, we continue to see high marks there as well. So, yeah.
I would kind of go back to Tulsa Boys Home too. I was really proud of that language arts piece. The Tulsa Boys Home, those kids are in our program maximum typically a year. Many of them are much less than that. And to see 3 years or 4 years gain in reading in the kind of environment, just the short period of time that they're there is pretty phenomenal. We don't shout out the teachers that work there enough, but I'm super proud of the Tulsa Boys Home and their progress as well. And then I don't know, Sean, if you want to talk about the capstone information that Ryan Bivens sent. I think he mislabeled it 21-22, but it's actually this year's senior results.
He did. And so so again, that is for 2021, but you'll see the pie chart that's on there. This is basically an indicator of how many students that we have in our senior capstone experience, which when you look at that information, and you probably remember seeing this last year, but what it is it's the number of students that have either earned at least some college credit, attended Tulsa Tech, attended TCC, or have completed some type of career internship as a senior. And you'll notice that out of, again, the near 400 students that we have, a very small number have no pathway. They're closing that gap every year that we have the ICAP capstone experience for our students. But the greatest thing of this is that almost every single one of our students has found some kind of path, whether it's through career or college or technical school. And whereas when you compare that to, I think back to when I was in high school, just that freshman experience in college, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And a lot of our kids are actually entering their senior year knowing where they want to be before they graduate. So I think that's a tremendous leap as far as where we've come in the past couple of years as opposed to where we were 5, 10, 15 years ago as a district. So
Showing that degree of support for our kids, especially in pandemic year, was, I think, something to celebrate. So hats off to Charles Page High School for working really hard to make that happen. That concludes, unless anybody has a question.
Questions on item 7? Moving to item 8, then we'll talk about resource innovation.
I'm going to say a little bitty teeny bit about federal programs monitoring because you get one sheet back that says you're in compliance. But we attached the document, the monitoring tool that literally is 33 pages long. And I saw Claudia Smith sitting in the back of the room, and that girl needs some credit because it is a nightmare to go through and provide backup documentation for every criteria, and it's very tedious, and she rocked it. And so the letter we get back that says Sand Springs Public Schools is in compliance may sound small, but I just want to hang it like on the wall in a frame and celebrate. It's amazing. OSSBA average teacher pay, I just put that in there. I know you get those emails, but I think it's worth taking a peek at. We are in Oklahoma around average. I will say I referred to item, I believe, number 47. We're actually adding a step to the end of our scale so that our teachers that are career teachers will actually get a step this year, which is great. I personally think we still have more work to do. We have 2,797 teachers that are emergency certified in the state of Oklahoma still, which is down really from last year. But to me, that means that advocacy has to continue for making sure we're getting teachers who are certified and ready to go.
Yeah, two things there I would say is just one is thankfully we've gotten to average because there were
Absolutely.
years ago,
Absolutely.
so not far ago that we were not near that. And thankful for the people who will step up and do the emergency certification
Absolutely.
to serve in roles where they're great need.
I think
Obviously, still, we want to continue to progress.
absolutely. We have a few in our district, not as many maybe as some, but we definitely have a few that step up. And, there's no judgment there. It's just, I think, a statement of attracting good talent to the profession and making sure we're holding them up to a place where people want to be a part of education. I worry that less and less people are focused and interested in coming into our field. And we need them. We need them to come.
Superintendent Darby, we have 5 alternative certification people that are finishing up their alt cert. I mean, they can teach while they're doing it, but they have
Classes
college
to take.
and PD to do to finish up. And then I've only submitted 3 for emergency certification this year
Yeah,
in our district.
I mean, that's a hallelujah.
Good job.
Like to come to Sand Springs and we like that.
Vernon Florence is just, will continue to get his newsletter as long as he's willing to put one out. Honestly, he, I think, brings a significant amount of credibility to the table and helps us plan, honestly, long term. So that will continue. The legislature did approve an additional 127 million for the state aid formula for next year. The hard part about predicting what that's going to be for us is knowing when the dust settles with enrollment, because it's shifted, as you know, so incredibly much, but it's going to be really hard to tell. So time will tell, but we're still thankful that legislators saw fit to increase. And then just want to make mention of item 48 below. We'll talk about that when we get to the action items, but the bid package. I know Jeannie Kavach is here tonight to talk about that conversion of that space. So any questions about?
Questions on resource innovation? Now we'll move forward to item 9, empowering families and communities.
The big news, honestly, in the month of June is that we have on the agenda a new communication coordinator for approval. We have an office in the Julia Martin building, so she's going to be officing central office, working pretty closely with the administrators and our teams at the site. Won't be in the office much, hopefully out and about trying to understand what's going on and put some production out to share our good news and our stories. So very excited about that position. How do you pronounce her last name? Out of curiosity. Oh, Chittister. I've said it so many ways, but Lisa Chittister.
All right.
First syllable is enunciated. Write that down.
Any questions on item number 9? Move on to item 10, health and safety.
Yeah, so as you know, we're getting federal stimulus money, so the strategies for startup document can't completely go away. We've been tasked, as has every other district in the state, to update our, not just the health guidance, that's a small portion of it, ours won't change likely, but we also have to include our learning plan and how we're gonna spend our funding. So there's a lot that goes into it. I believe it's due in August in completion. But the fact that we've done our health guidance up until now keeps us in compliance for June. So that, even though that was very tedious work with a lot of time and effort this year, it still is going to be a requirement as we move forward. There's another competitive federal grant available through the State Department, and it is competitive, so we're not guaranteed, but we have been talking through the possibility of a counselor at ECEC for a while. If we were to get that grant, I think it's due Thursday or Friday this week, then that would pay for 50% of that salary. So hopefully it's worth being able to try to get it and support a counselor for that building. And then if you all know this already, but of course we added an additional nurse position for the next year. So we've gone from 2 currently to a third one. Just kind of a little history and background. We ended up with a second nurse due to a child in special education that was high needs. So Janelle Wright was hired for that student, and that student's no longer enrolled with us, but we retained Janelle. And so it's kind of a coup to get a third new nurse to serve the district. And then lastly, it's not a note on here, but our friend David from Daybreak is here. I gave you a sheet that has their data on it, and David, if you don't mind reading the team and talking through the numbers.
I think we've completed our 12th or 13th year here in Sand Springs. I meant to look it up, forgot to. I want to introduce you guys to 2 of our key people. Janelle Capps is our clinical director, and Rebecca Taylor is our program manager. And Janelle's going to go over a little bit of questions or make a few comments about the stats thing. So this is something we do for all of our major school districts that we work in and have contracts with, as far as giving you data back about what our therapists have done in school all year. So
All right, so you can see on the back of that page, the totals for the district. So we got almost 250 referrals this school year. We did almost 500 pro bono hours that our therapists are expected to see clients on a pro bono basis. We've got over 450 active clients right now and have provided over 8,500 hours of direct service this school year. And this was a really difficult school year for us as well. Glad that it's over. Staffing was difficult, and retaining people was a little bit difficult. And it was challenging for our therapists to have to be so flexible throughout the pandemic. Some of their students were enrolled in virtual school. Some of their students were in quarantine, and just trying to continue to provide those services all year was a challenge for all of them. And we're so grateful to have the clinicians that we have, and grateful to have this partnership.
So question for Daybreak. I want to elaborate a little bit, unless you.
well, I want to follow up on something she said. I want to say kudos to your district for staying in session as much as you did, because one of the interesting things we saw was our other school districts who were out a lot had a lot of incidents of suicide attempts, kids that families that were just under a lot of stress. And you guys had that too here some, but not near the numbers of the school districts that were out a lot. So it really did make a difference for kids to be in school.
Well, we put that under health and safety, because when you say health, it sounds like physical health, but mental health, as you know, is really critical as well. And we were in leadership today, kind of reliving the year, talking about what were our low points, rebooting today, and how can we learn from our low points. And I had forgotten, Lynn, this sounds terrible, not really forgotten, but so much has happened. One of our principals mentioned the 2 tragedies with our families that happened this year. And when you think back to all of those elements that we were dealing with this year was incredibly long, but I'd forgotten mental health is so important. One of the things I would add, we asked this team to continue to provide some services this summer, which you always do. You're always seeing clients in the summer, but social emotional learning is a big deal all the time, but especially coming off the pandemic. So part of the July summer program is really addressing mental health too. And so we took an opportunity, honestly, to purchase some curriculum to really address social emotional grouping. So I don't know if you want to discuss that, you guys, in terms of what that's going to look like.
So Daybreak's going to continue to have a presence during July because, as we just learned and as we've been talking about all year, it's been a rough year on children across the district. But in addition to that, we wanted to provide, in addition to the math and the language arts skills practice for our kids, we wanted to provide a social emotional learning component so that we can help kids, understand how to deal with varying situations, varying from social, skills to grief and things like that. So we have purchased some curriculum that we'll be using in July, but we're also looking at various other curricula that we'll institute across the district in the school year next year. So I'm in the middle of looking through vendors right now And there's a lot of promising things out there that we can add to the day without taking away an incredible amount of time from the teaching experience, because we want it to be meaningful, but we want it to be something that's manageable by the teachers as well. So
Just wanted you to know about that focus, because it is important. I appreciate our partners at
Thank you,
Daybreak.
guys.
They have been with us for a while, so thank you.
Very good. We'll move to, if there's no questions on that item, we're gonna move to the consent agenda, which is items 11 through 36 that, because they're kind of a routine nature, we can approve as one vote unless someone sees an item they'd like to have pulled out of that consent agenda.
The only thing I would say, it feels good to see on the agenda is out-of-state travel approval. We did that last year, but item number 22, seeing our varsity basketball team go to Carthage, Missouri in December, and it's so funny. There's a deadline. They have to get on a board agenda, and they're doing it very quickly because it just feels good to be back to, normal. So that would be the one that I would highlight, Mr. Gunn.
Very good. Any others? Friends? Then we would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll call for a vote.
Wyman? Aye. Rogers?
Aye.
Aye. Move to our action items. We would have a proposed executive session for discussion of employment of a number of positions there. Anyone wanted to make that motion? If not, then we're going to move to item number 38, which would be the proposed employment of all of those positions.
I move to propose employment of the list of teachers and other staff.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Okay, then we'll call for a vote.
Wyman? Aye. Rogers?
Aye.
Gunn?
Aye. Item 39, review and approval of a lease agreement between Sand Springs Public Schools and Olivet Baptist Church.
So that would be the Twin Cities area. Very small amount of money for a lease. They can use the property. As you know, we raised that building several years ago, and so it's just, they're using it just outdoor activities.
Could that be in future added to the consent agenda? I just want
Absolutely.
this kind of routine.
Yeah, we should absolutely could. I didn't really think about it. I just, the contracts feel like they need to go, but yes.
Sometimes, yeah, I think
Absolutely.
that's a pretty routine. Yeah. So, entertain a motion for that approval.
To approve the lease agreement between Sand Springs and Olivet.
Second.
We call for a vote.
Wyman? Aye. Rogers?
Aye.
Gunn?
Aye. Item number 40. This is the public hearing of proposed budget for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. And just to make an announcement that those who are here with us can make comments after the presentation of this item, which is unusual for most items, but being the budget that is allowed during this meeting.
Okay. I included notes. So you've read over the notes and kind of get an idea of what's going on within the budget. I'm just gonna start on page 7 because page 1 through 6, it's just basically summary pages, adding stuff up that we'll kind of go through. And I'll try to be brief. If you have questions, please feel free to stop me at any point in time and ask questions, and I'll answer them if I can. If I can't, I will most certainly find out for you. On page 7, which is the summary of estimated revenues for the general fund, Fund 11. As you can see, it's pretty standard. It hasn't changed much over the last second revision budget or the actual 2019-2020. The one number I would there's 2 numbers on here I'd like you to focus on. It's number 3210 Foundation Salary Incentive Aid. 1920 it was 18, almost 0.9 million. And I budgeted in at 16, just under 16.4 based upon the information I had at that point in time. That was before the State Department decided that they were going to up our budget.
127 million into the.
Yeah, they were going to add that. This was done before that because I have to publish in the newspaper and everything else. So that came out after that fact. So I would anticipate that number going up some, not a lot, but some. I'm hoping to get it back up somewhere between 17.1 and 17.4. That's what the fallout of that's going to be determined by the number of students that we actually have enrolled again this year. So, that number will go up some. The reason why the bottom number, total resources, is almost 50 million is because of item 4689, which is your second last bottom, 8.66 million. That's our CARES Act money that's been graciously given to us by our federal government with the CARES Act 2, the remaining portion that we have not received or have not encumbered or appropriated yet, and then well, we appropriated, but I may have it covered, and then the money we're going to receive in CARES Act 3 this following fiscal year, which is well over 5 million, almost $6 million. So that's where the majority of that number is coming from. So that's the reason why you're seeing such a large total on total revenues, climbing up so high. Okay. On the next page, the estimated expenditures, I spent it. What was that to? I went through the whole system and decided, well, we're going to receive it. We'll give ourselves the ability to spend it. Now, as I've always said in the past, that doesn't mean we're going to spend it. I do know the word no. Unfortunately, Ms. Starkey, or fortunately, Ms. Starkey knows the word no too. So while we have the ability to encumber, if something fantastic happens and more money comes our way, which I'm hearing talk of a CARES Act 4 or something else, I'm hearing talks of it, then we may. But this just gives us the ability to do so if more money does come our way from the federal government.
I would add to Greg that the third CARES Act, which is really called ARP,
Yes.
acronym wise,
Mhm.
it does not have to be spent until September 2024. So even though it's encumbered here, not encumbered, but appropriated here,
Appropriated, yes.
doesn't mean that we necessarily have to spend it this year, which is great. It allows us to have
Some latitude on how we spend it.
the course of the next 3 years.
But like I said, if more money comes our way, then it does give the superintendent latitude to go after things that are good for the district within the bounds of what they've said that we can spend it on. And if not, then we will hold it in abeyance and carry it over. It'll definitely be carried over probably at least until next year for sure, I would imagine. A lot of it will be, to help smooth out any bumps, because as we know how finances work in Oklahoma. It's always an interesting time, usually about January. So if you hear CFOs crying, usually it's about January, whenever we get our mid-year adjustments. That's usually when that happens. Any questions so far? The rest of it, if you go to the next page, that's the co-op fund, which is just basically our ability it's funded through our ability to co-op with other school districts. And basically, I believe we only do two. I believe it's Anderson and Prue, if I'm correct. I think I'm correct.
For all ten.
Huh?
For all, we actually have two co-ops. One is alternative education through Steve Purdue's program. Berry Hill's actually included in that now, and then the other is ELL.
Yeah.
The co-op.
English language learners. And so that's, as you can see, I budgeted in and then spent most of the money, a little bit more than the money than we received, because the fund balance has increased and creeped up a little bit. So I'm going to spend it down a little because I don't want to carry quite that big a fund balance into the next year. The next page is the building fund. Our building funds is our interesting little fund that we have, which is supposed to help build buildings and take care of them. As you can see, I've estimated that we're going to receive about $1 million again this year, approximately. It fluctuates somewhat. We have been told that there may be some more money coming into the building fund this next year. There's a
Say the Senate Bill 299 or something was a building equalization fund, which is interestingly, when that passed and the governor signed it, I got a text immediately from Lloyd Snow and he goes, "It's about time." And you know the reason. Our net assessed value is so limited in comparison that this adds some little bit of equalization so that we receive, closer to what others receive that have a higher net assessed value. But please remember, bonds are still based on net assessed value, so it doesn't really change.
Right. And to give you an idea, I think this kind of gives an idea of how our building fund per year. This year, our insurance payment is going to be just about equivalent to the amount of building fund we receive for the whole year. So it would basically cover our insurance of our buildings. And that's just about it if we used it for that fact, everything, which we don't. But this kind of gives you an idea of where we're standing. And so then at the bottom, under the revenue, the expenditure piece, I've set us up so that we could spend what we have. Of course, we won't, but because we'll always want to keep at least a certain amount in the building fund for, possible disasters, which I can't imagine happening, like a flood or fire
We
or
can't imagine.
any of the other stuff that happens. That was sarcasm. I'm sorry. Fund 22 on the next page, page 11, pretty much held steady, based upon talking to Ms. Pearson. We have been fortunate this last year that we're just basically receiving funds for feeding students no matter what. So every student's being fed or can be fed. And so it's kind of stabilized her. This last year, she's kind of stabilized where the year before she lost money. This year, it looks like she's probably going to be break even or maybe plus or minus just a little bit when she gets done. I've budgeted her the same for next year under the assumption, and I believe it's passed, that they're going to continue the program for next year. So,
So free lunch and free nutrition.
yeah, so that's been a very large plus on us on the child nutrition side. So, the next page is our bond funds, which everybody knows about. We received this year in May, $6.145 million. 2.235 of that is to pay Northwoods, 1.8, I believe, was to pay for our brand new building, freshman building, and 2 million of that goes into our, basically into our bond fund for us to use to pay for the things that were passed to be purchased and everything. And so that's the setup below for the summary of the expenditures. I've allowed us to spend all the bond fund. We'll carry them forward like we always do. Usually on average, you have you have 5 years to spend a bond once you receive it. We usually expend the total amount of it, usually around year 4. It's usually about what we do. So, they drag out for about a good 4 years, and we roll them off at that point each month, about at that point, and have expended the whole thing. So it usually takes about 4 years for us to go through it all. Okay. The next page is the debt service fund. It is, as my sainted grandfather says, it is what it is. Those monies come in through taxes that are set up based upon our NAV to pay our bonds. And then that's our debt service of 5.2 million is what we'll be paying just next year, whenever the bill comes due. I'd say there's not much to tell about that. Next page, last page is our gift and endowment fund, our workers' compensation fund, and a new fund called insurance fund. The gifts and endowment funds, we've talked about it many times before. I set it up and then I set it to be able to spend most of it. We don't ever, but I like the ability to be able to spend what we want to. A lot of that has to do with STEM projects. A lot of it has to do with scholarships for students. And we try to spit it out as requested by people that receive the money.
Great. The ones that are not, we love because it gives some versatility, but as you know, Webco and the Sand Springs Home, those donations are absolutely triggered towards STEM education.
The workers' compensation fund, we've had a discussion many times about that. I'm just holding in abeyance until the bank decides they want it back. So it's about $8,000 in there. The insurance fund, that's a new fund. It was set up because we received insurance money for our roofs. Yep, all our roofs, to the tune of $1 million. And we have now spent down to $472,000 in the repair of the roofs and everything. And the rest of it is being held for roof repair or, well, it helped with repair. So that's everything. Is there any questions?
I just
Go ahead. No, you.
have a technical question on the acronyms for the ESSER and the ARP. Those are both CARES Act funding.
Yes.
Okay.
One on
So there's the
American Recovery Plan. I know what ARP, ESSR.
first one, and it was this year. We've extended that. It's gone.
Okay.
The second one, it was mostly technology, honestly. So covering Chromebook checkout, those kinds of things. Tina was very thankful about CARES Act money. The second was ESSER. I can
That's
tell you
right.
what that means.
I don't know.
Yes, sir.
I know the ARP acronym, but I haven't memorized ESSR.
That was the 2.6-ish million. And then the last one is called the American Recovery Plan, we call it ARP. And so it's the 5.8
9 million.
ish.
And there was a small one in there for 161,000 that we received. I call it SR2 plus. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what they call it. That's in there as well. It was some extra money that I think they had withheld, and then they finally gave it back out. I think they had total about 161,000 if I remember correctly. So that's what those are.
Thanks.
So the opportunity for anybody in the public who would like to question or comment is now. If not, anyone else on the board have comment or discussion? Then we would move to item number 41, which would be the proposed approval of the budget that we just discussed. Would entertain the motion for that approval.
Make the motion to approve the 21-22 fiscal year budget.
I'll second.
Call for a vote, please.
Wagner,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Gann,
That passes. We'll go to item 42, which is our vote to approve Superintendent Sherry Durkee as our purchasing agent for various programs throughout that. I wonder if that could also be consent agenda. It's kind of
I exactly was thinking the same thing.
So.
Yep.
We see that and we would entertain that motion. It's just normal operation for us to have her carrying those things.
I'll move to approve Mrs. Durkee as our purchasing agent.
I'll second that. And we'll call for a vote.
Wagner,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Gann,
Aye. Item 43 is proposed approval of resolution of Sand Springs Schools to join the Oklahoma School Insurance Group.
I will say that this is a new proposal. They added it this year. Insurance claims have been ridiculously crazy. And so it was just kind of an assurance to know that it is a group that was organized by a group of schools. Lloyd Snow was one of the founding members for the purpose of self-insuring, if you will. And so just assuring that we're responsible for our own claims. So that's new that they added this year.
Interesting. All right, I will move to approve resolution of Sand Springs Schools to join the OSIG.
Any other discussion? So we were not a part of this group previously.
No, we were.
Okay, sorry.
Added this component, long story. So the others try to get in. We have two insurance groups in the state of Oklahoma. One is not super physically sound. Claims have hit OSIG really, really hard. So you have others that try to get in because they obviously need property insurance. And so it's just been a little bit of it's been tricky trying to manage it because reinsurance, which is the company that provides the bulk of the money to make repairs, it's hard in Oklahoma to get that because we're a high risk state. And so this was just a component the attorneys added for that group to say we are really joined as a group, as one unit.
Make it official. So we will call for a vote, please.
Wagner,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Gann,
Aye. Item 44, proposed approval of renewal property casualty liability auto insurance with Insurica Keystone Agency and Oklahoma State Insurance Group.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the Sand Springs District to join the Oklahoma Schools Insurance Group.
That would be their
For property casualty
Yeah,
liability
renewal.
and auto,
Renewal of policies.
number 44.
I'll second that. So we'll call for a vote.
Wagner,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Gann,
Aye. Item 45, proposed approval of the renewal of workers' compensation insurance, also with Oklahoma School Assurance Group, or a different group there, for the 2021-22 school year. Discussion, questions?
The same group we've been using.
Call for vote. I'm sorry, I should take the motion. I'm ready to go with that. I'll make the motion. How about that? I'll make the motion. We approve item 45.
I'll second.
Call for a vote now. Ready to go.
Wagner,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Gann,
Aye. Item 46, proposed approval of 2021 through 2024 contract of Sherry Durkee, the superintendents of schools. Now this one, we may need to think on for a minute. Okay, I've thought of that. Would anybody like to make the motion to approve that contract, which also is available for those who'd like to see it? So
I'll make the motion to move to approve the contract for Ms. Durkee.
And I'll second.
we will call for a vote.
Wagner,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Gann,
Item 47, proposed approval of the 2021-22 teacher compensation schedule. And this has some new
There is
things to it.
It does. So we added, and Greg can explain better than me, but basically a $500 step right before the career, which will end up being a $500 increase for our career teachers across the board. So it adds additional
Add
steps.
additional step and then push the career up. So they receive a little more money.
Anytime we have the opportunity to be better compensating, we want to do that. I will make the motion to approve item 47.
I will second.
Call for a vote, please.
Wagon. Aye. Wagers.
Aye.
And
Aye. Item 48, proposed acceptance of bid and award of the contract to the lowest responsible bidder on the old Central Ninth Grade Center remodel. You see the contracts there with the Watts Company as recommended by the bond manager. Do we have any was that the first four: enrollment center, child nutrition department, technology in the old kitchen, and the HVAC replacement on the first floor? Any details on that we need to be aware of? Everything's
It will be, kind of our test of the building to see how we like the finish out. But I expect we had a test already and we were just over the top with some of the samples they put up. Really happy with it.
We really were pleased with it, and she's right about seeing how that's gonna look. So of course, the idea is to make it look as new as possible. And maintain the character of the old building, there's no doubt, because it does have some historical meaning to some patrons of Sand Springs. I will say that portions of that are going to be able to be covered with our ARP money. So stimulus, meaning HVAC is an acceptable expenditure for quality air, and so the HVAC replacement with the boilers, the boiler.
And then we had, in the flooding, we get some insurance money back.
Correct.
To cover some of
So
the
it sounds like-
demolition and remodels.
Right.
Technology, I think he's planning on working technology into the kitchen first. It's gonna be a great home for them. Lots of storage capacity for their equipment, workstations for them, and
Loading dock.
a loading dock, and then a wonderful centralized location for enrollment with a one-stop shop for everyone that comes in. So we're excited about that.
We are.
Child nutrition will be just across the hall, and but the parents will come in and be able to do everything on one computer rather than going 4 different departments to complete their enrollment, which brings us to the 21st century.
True.
We're excited.
all right. Then we would entertain the motion for that. I'll be honest, my transparent here is that I always hesitate putting money into that building or thinking about putting money in that building, but I'm thankful for your plan and trust you guys that it's the best use of what we have.
I would say that it is a very good building still. Structurally, it's probably one of the strongest buildings you have in the district. It's a very sound building. We put a lot of money into the infrastructure already, improving both sewer and water. The boiler, we can replace the boiler and it would still work, but to get away from the boiler as we, the plan is now as we move into a floor, we would like to discontinue that boiler portion and bring in more furnace type situations.
I certainly think it's better use for these purposes than
Right.
students to be in that building.
That's what's wrong. What's wrong with that building is the size of the classrooms and the offsetting floors. It
I
just
will
doesn't
tell you
work.
this, it took me a minute to get there, honestly, and I'm not saying I'm fully there and bought in. I want to see, we've got to get the enrollment center more user friendly for people. Our customers are our parents. And we've got to make that better. And that's been kind of a sore spot on my end, just really an embarrassment of how that is routed and how that works. I will say the sample that has been done is amazing. So I took myself back to Garfield and the remodel that we did at Garfield, and it is beautiful. So, and of course, Charles Page High School with kind of spicing up the old so that it's connected to the new has been amazing. So I'm hopeful. I've got some confidence in our plan. So we will take everybody on a tour when it's all done.
There we go. Someone would make the motion.
I move to accept the bid and award contract to lowest responsible bidder on Old Central Ninth Grade Center remodel.
All right. Good. In a second.
I'll second.
We'll call for a vote.
Wagon. Aye. Wagers.
Aye.
Ben.
Aye. any matter that was not known about or could not reasonably been foreseen prior to the posting of this meeting?
There is not.
Do we have any announcements?
No announcements, unless you had one.
No, we'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? Then I will discuss that this will be less than 1 hour meeting, and we'll call for a vote.
Okay, let me think here a minute.
Gonna hold out for 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
Aye. Wages.
Aye.
And
Aye. Thank you all.
Second record?